Hey guys, welcome to the Derick Leg podcast. I've got a really good friend here. I feel like I say that every episode. I promise we'll get past the good friend part and I'll just be normal when we do intros. But I've got a good buddy here. I've known him my entire adult life. Like I was telling Mallory, I've known him since I've known who I am. So probably 8th grade. He is the owner, or one of the owners, a partner of world-class marketing. He does all of our websites. He does all of our social media, all of our safe store ads. He does all of that. So this is my good friend, Tyson Koford. How you doing, man?
Man, good, man. How about you?
Good. Thanks for being here.
I'm glad to be here, man.
Good.
Excited.
Well, we were kind of getting into it before we started recording.
Yeah.
So now we're kind of halfway down the road. So where do you want to start? How far back you want to go?
You tell me, man.
Well, high school. Man, we went to high school together. Auto tech.
Yeah, auto tech.
Auto tech's probably where we bonded a lot.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Good old Mr. Hentosh.
That's right.
And we would hung out after school all the time. Then you and Alex Stout kind of running together a little bit.
Yeah.
And then really probably after high school, I would say we kind of got closer.
Yeah.
Mainly because Tyson's probably been the one person other than my mom in my life that I have always felt like no matter what I'm going to say, I'm not judged. I can be super open. I mean, I grew up with 3 older brothers that always made fun of me. And so I've always been nervous to be laughed at. I don't like being laughed at. I don't think anyone does, but I've always kind of held back because I didn't want to be judged. But I feel like when we've got together and talked, there's zero judgment. And not only that, like we were just saying, we're pretty much going down the same road side by side, not knowing it until we open up to each other.
Right.
I mean, what do you think?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely, man. I mean, so many times I just start sharing my own stuff. You know, hey, man, this is what I'm going through. And you've always been a guy that I can express that to, because you can't, there's certain individuals you can only do that to, that you feel comfortable enough to express your deep shit, and you don't want to be judged for it.
Right.
And you've always been that guy for me, and and that's why I have that for you also, because I feel safe. And I mean, we've shared some epic stuff that's really helped me. It's helped me shift. I was just telling you before this podcast how much you've really affected my life to this point, and through 8th grade, but yet just there's so many lessons after lessons of relationships, of fatherhood, of entrepreneurship, and just how often there's such a heavy burden that comes with it.
Well, and I feel like there's been a lot of times where I've had this talk with Jake Erickson that we had on the second podcast about you. Whenever we talk, I'm very straight line, and I'm controlling. I'm type A. I know the direction I want it to go in 99% of the time. I've thought about every possibility that can happen, right? But every time I get with you and I'm like, this is my thought, I feel like I just get turned on my head with the different angles that you come in with on what I want to do. So I always tell Jake, I'm always like, I mean, there's been times I've taken your advice and there's been times I haven't, but every single time it's a totally different angle than I had ever thought of, which is unique for me, because most times when people talk to me, I'm like, yeah, I already thought about that. Oh yeah, this is why I'm not doing that. You know, or yeah, I know that's why I'm doing it. And so coming to you with different things, I always feel like there's a different angle. And I mean, you were raised a lot differently than I was. Like, how old were you when your parents were divorced?
So I was 8 years old when my parents divorced. And that was a big thing for me back then. I didn't, as a child, you almost feel like, what did I do? Did I do something wrong? And that I didn't recognize that I did that same thing until now. And my dad got remarried really quickly. And so that was weird. having a stepmother so quickly. And then my mom married, a few years after that. And then once again, a two different, you got your step family now
Sure.
on both sides. And that's a unique way of life of different families, of different houses going back and forth, and the different energies. And it was very, there's lots of variety in both my mom and my dad and lifestyles that they lived, and it was just interesting on both picking and choosing and seeing what's all there within decision making.
Sure. Well, it's like what we were talking about before. I mean, I grew up, my parents weren't divorced until I was older, right? And so I didn't necessarily have the what did I do wrongs.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I was going through my own struggle.
Yeah.
And there's so many times that you and I have talked, and even though it happened to you when you were 8 and it happened to me when I was 21, 22, like I feel like there's still so many parallel lines with all of it. And even like, let's get a little further down the road. So now it's like we've graduated, you went on a mission,
Mm-hmm.
I didn't. I started doing the mail routes. So like technically that's when I opened my first business doing the mail routes. 13 years ago, 12, 13 years ago. And then now we get to where we're at now. I've got a couple businesses under my belt. I've got a decade of doing it. You're 5 years in?
Yeah.
5 years
5 years in. Yep.
But at the same time, it seems like we're still traveling the same road.
Yeah.
And we still have parallel experiences.
Right.
There's a lot of things you'll call me, hey man, I'm going through this. I
Yeah.
had this customer say that.
Right.
And I'm like, yeah, dude, I just went through that yesterday.
Same thing yesterday.
Right.
Yeah, that happened. That was crazy.
And so what's your experiences with starting your business doing marketing? Tell me a little bit about the marketing company. And then we'll kind of pull some bits off of that, I'm sure. So tell me what you do, what the company's based on. I mean, I know what you do because you do it all for me,
Right.
but
You want me to share the story of like how I like
Sure.
the transition? So it's an interesting, a story. It made me who I am today for sure. So let's start out. Yeah, I guess 5-6 years ago, I worked actually more. I don't know. 2018 is when I quit. I was selling cars for 5 years, and I met a man. His name's Christopher, and he was starting this solar company. He wanted me to sell, and so it was a big deal. And I was like, okay. And I was super nervous about leaving the car dealership and leap of faith. It's all commission based, although I'm making just commission right now, but I don't know a whole lot about the solar industry. But I did it. I jumped, and I didn't sell a thing. But I got to meet some amazing people that have changed my life. And that has progressed me to then, I was doing some side jobs here. You remember that? I was working for a motorcycle shop, and it was super toxic there. And so then I talked to you, and I'm like, hey man, this is super toxic here. And you're like, dude, I'm just opening up a safe store. You can do your marketing, and at my shop, and if somebody comes in, you got sales skills that you can sell a safe for me. And I was like, yeah, man, absolutely.
I mean, you're just starting the marketing.
I'm just
stuff.
starting the marketing stuff, right? And it was like, yeah, I need a little bit more income when I'm starting this marketing stuff, and I thought it was a win-win, and I could do your marketing, and it was just like I was like, yeah, let's do this. And then we just started it. It's student new business. We didn't have any brand awareness, and so it was slow at first.
Right.
And that hurt me a lot financially.
Sure.
And so it kind of got me in more and more in a bind. I wasn't selling, still trying to sell website stuff and marketing and trying to sell safes and then working 1 year mail routes.
Yeah.
We eventually like, hey man, you'll make a little bit more money making rail routes, go this route. And it's like, yeah, okay. And then we're going
Like guaranteed money, not
guaranteed money.
hoping someone walks in off the street.
And then, I was still doing some marketing outside, got a few more clients and kind of doing it. And then we ended up parting ways and started to do my marketing thing. And I was selling stuff, and then I wasn't making anything. And then it was selling stuff, and then I wasn't making anything. And then it got so much that it started to get me more and more of a bind. And bills started to start stacking up. I'm like, dude, I've been doing work. I've been calling. I've been doing all these things, and it's not working. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what do I need to do? Do I need to get another job? I mean, bills are packing up. I'm stressed. I have a son that I need to take care of, and it was really intense. And then added on top of it, I was behind on my truck bill, and it got repoed.
I remember this.
And
dude, and I'm sitting there like, do I just cut him a check?
Right,
Is this something he needs to learn from?
Yeah. And so it was an intense learning process. So I got repoed, and I'm like, shit, dude, what am I going to do? And then I just came, and I was like, Tyson, get it back. And I had 10 days. I had 10 days to get $7,000 because that's what I owed on the truck.
And what were you making a month, do you think? Hundreds? Thousands?
Yeah. 2,000? I mean, probably, yeah. I mean, $500 or $1,000 was a good month back. Like it was like that. That was the truth. And, which I had more bills than income at that point. And that's what happened to me in that situation. But then I something came over me. There was something that was like, hey, you know what? I'm going to put everything I have in this. Everything I have. And I called up a mentor of mine, and I was like, dude, what do I do? And what he said, because I got my truck repoed, I called him, I'm like, what do I do? And this is what he said. He said, go run around the block. Run around the block, take off your shoes, and then go on the grass and get grounded. And so I did that. I pushed as hard as I can, like he said. I pushed as hard as I can to run and went on the grass. I was sweating my ass off, put my shoes on the ground, or put my feet on the ground, socks off. And I felt more connected after that. And then he said, think of who could be the fastest way to cash. Who can you attract that could be the fastest way to cash for you in this situation? You need money right now. And so he says, go in nature, write the names down. And so I went in nature and I wrote the names down. And 7 days later, I sold enough to pay my truck off.
Pay it off.
Yeah,
pay it off.
Not just get it back. Pay it off. And pay all, I mean, if you imagine your truck is got repoed, obviously there's other bills that are just as delinquent. And I paid all those off too. And I got all caught up. And it was like, it was so amazing to do that for me. I showed up for myself, and I continued to show up. There was some huge resistance in the very beginning, and that was the biggest shift for me in my business.
Sure.
Is then what my own capability was within it. Because there was a lot of self-doubt, and that's why the money went up and down, up and down. Can I do this? Oh, yes, I made a sale. Oh, man, I'm not good enough. No. I can't do this. And it was just a constant struggle. And I feel like a lot of entrepreneurs feel the same way in the beginning.
Well, and I feel like let's back up a little bit. So you're at the car dealership.
Yeah.
I would say, and I think you would agree that, I mean, that was your identity.
Yeah,
I was
a car guy.
Loved it.
Yeah.
Loved it.
Mm-hmm.
And so let's go parallel roads, right?
Right.
So I was at Checker Auto.
Wow, that's interesting.
Back in the day, right?
Okay, yeah. I
was 18. I was a manager. I had the highest sales out of anyone in our district. We were at the third smallest store. A lot of the times I would push my sales on to the other people that work with us to get their sales up. I thought I was it. I was like, this store closes down if something happens to me. That was my thought.
Yeah.
And I honestly believed that.
Yeah.
And then that might be a story for another day, but I end up leaving.
Oh yeah.
So I part ways from Checker,
Right.
and that identity that I had, I was kind of lost for a minute, right? Luckily, Adam had the mail route that I stepped into.
That's right.
But it's like you have this identity that's taken away. And I was making
You're making good
I was
money,
making a
dude.
lot of money.
Yeah,
at
I
18.
remember, like, we go to Derek's house, and there's going to be a big screen TV there and nice surround system
gotta-
there. Let's go to D's house.
Yeah.
He's making that dough.
We got popcorn machines. we got mini fridges.
Right, dude. What's the candy machine?
candy
Dude, we had to
machines
pay
in
for
there.
that candy machine, man.
made
He
so
made
much
us
money
pay.
off you guys.
He made us pay for that candy. I can't believe it.
But it was like I was making more money than I had time to spend. And I mean, let's be honest. I was 18. Like it was a ton of money
It's not
back
like
then.
you had a crap ton of bills. Yeah, I
Right.
get it.
I was living at home.
Yeah.
You know. Anyway, so you kind of bounce around. I went from the mail route. I started Speedy Mobile Oil.
That's
I was
right.
doing mobile oil
That's right.
changes. That fell on its
Yeah,
face.
it did.
I went from that. I bounced around a couple things is what I'm getting at.
Yeah, yeah.
So like we back up and we talk about these things, and it's like the two completely different roads we have
Same.
go together, and in the end we end up working for ourselves. But we have this identity with this other business that we think it's the best thing that could ever happen to us. And then after that, struggle, up, down, financially, emotionally. I always like to credit my wife because financially I'm more secure because of my wife and her education and her job, right? I mean, that lets me take a lot of risk because of that. But at the end of the day, we're both entrepreneurs, I guess is what I'm trying to get to. And it's like, we've both gone through these struggles. I remember you calling me, shit, man, my truck just got repoed. Like, dude, I'm doing everything. I'm working. I'm putting the time in. I'm putting the work in. I don't know what to do, you know, and that conversation we had. And yeah, I'm sitting there like, if anybody believes that things are supposed to happen and you're supposed to get through it, it's you.
You did say that.
And I'm like, as much as I want to just help you, you know,
Right.
I was like, maybe this is something you got to do. And I was even like, screw that truck, dude. Let them have it.
Yeah,
like
we
I was
talked
trying
about it.
I was
Like,
trying
what
to be
about
like,
letting it go? What would
Yeah.
that look like? What would this look like? Well, I mean, yeah,
what's your
you helped me
options?
explore the different options for
Right.
sure. Yeah.
And then I remember you calling me and being like, bro, you're never going to believe what just happened. And you tell me, dude, I got this contract. I got this job. I got this money. And I was like, dude, I believe it. Because I've been there. I've been there when you're, how am I going to pay?
How am I going to do it? Looked,
Yeah.
I mean, I had a truck repoed.
Right.
It looked like, okay, well, you know, there's been multiple people that probably listen to this have been through the same situation
Sure.
I had for sure. And yeah, that that despair feeling, it was like such a failure. I'm trying my best, but then this happens. But when I look back on my mentality back then,
This is what I was going to get to.
It wasn't as what it is now, but I shifted from it,
Yeah.
for sure.
Well, and it's like, you want to go back to parallel roads. Like, I remember coming home one day and my dad was sitting in the living room in the dark. And I was like, I walk in, I'm like, what are you doing? And I go to like flip the light on, light doesn't come on.
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, well, this is weird, you know? And I'm like, and I think he was crying and he didn't want me to see it. I'm not sure. Anyway, I finally get his attention and I'm like, what's going on? Like, why is the power not on? And that's when he like kind of broke down and was like, we're behind on the house. Power's shut off, you know, like it's not a mistake. I didn't pay the power bill because I have money. And this was like probably when I'm making all that money when I was like 18.
Okay.
Well, I guess it would have been when I was 16 or 17.
How did that make you feel when
So-
you're hurt? Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
So that's what I'm drawing the parallel line
Okay.
to is maybe that was even though it wasn't happening to me, I felt every bit of that because I was like, you know, it was like a $200 bill. And I'm like, this isn't that big of a deal. And so I just drove down to the city and paid it. And then I came back and I think it was like an hour later, our power was on. And to me, I was like, no big deal. Dad got you,
Right.
you know, like,
Right.
thanks for everything you do. Gotcha. But at the same time, I was like, how does that make him feel? And I felt like I went through it too. And for him, I wanted to get down there and get power turned back on before my sister and mom were home, because I didn't want them to know that, that I had to do it, because I didn't want my dad to have to live through the embarrassment of that his 16-year-old son had to go down. Right.
Right.
And 2, I didn't know mentally if he could handle it, because he was kind of like, no, we'll figure it out. But at the same time, I know he was like, please go down there and pay that, but he didn't want to tell me like, hey dude. So anyway, what I keep on trying to get back to, I just get down rabbit holes, is
I get it. I do too.
You have those ups and downs and ups and downs. And I think I was experiencing a lot of that when my dad was going through his struggles, and I was a right-hand guy to try and clean a lot of that up before anyone saw. And in the end, I look at him and I'm like, I feel like he was doing his best right before my parents got divorced. And I was waiting for that to like pick up and pick up and pick up and have that, dude, I made the money to get my truck back.
Right.
But it never did for him. And I've always wondered, like,
the trajectory if you did.
Right.
Right.
And it's like, but the difference is you were working, you were doing this, you were doing that, you ran around the block, you put your feet on the grass.
Yeah.
He was so far down that dark hole that he was sitting in bed for 3 days. Right. And I'm not faulting him. I mean, that's just his story. When that stuff's going on, this is what I want to ask you. How many times did you think, I'm doing everything right, I'm doing what I'm supposed to do, and then 2 days later something else happens and you're like, I'm doing everything right, but until you finally got down to that bottom, and then you made those calls, then you made this, and then you made that. So it's like, how many times did you think you were at the bottom before you were at the bottom?
Yeah. And how many times I thought I was doing everything, but I wasn't.
Sure.
But in my head, I was telling myself that.
Yeah.
So then I believed it.
Sure.
I believed that. Now I look back, I'm like, dude, you have no idea.
Yeah. Well, so that's what I'm getting at, is like, when people keep on getting knocked down, like I've always said it, and it might be kind of silly, but it's like a setback is a setup for a comeback. And I feel like no matter what happens, and I've had this conversation with a lot of people in my family even, that they'll call and say, this happened and I don't know what to do. And I'm like, this is the point. This is the point that you need to look back on, because how you react to this is going to put you down which road you're going to end up going down.
Yeah.
Right?
It's true.
And so it's like, are you going to ball up?
Yeah,
or you going to ball up, or are you going to ball out? Right? Like, are you going to step up to the plate and you can take care of business like you did and you got your truck back? Or are you going to ball up and why me's?
But sometimes is interesting though within, sometimes that like, hey, let's ball up, let's do this. People, there's steps to this of getting this out of that rut sometimes.
Sure.
And this, like, sometimes this depression's over you. And sometimes you're just like, man, I'm just not doing anything right. I feel like I am, but nothing's going my way. But my continued thinking of negative thoughts of, oh man, I'm not there. Nobody would hire me. Why would somebody hire me? Or there's somebody else better than me. I don't know, what the heck, just that self, I haven't experienced it, but yet I wanted it. I just didn't know which direction to go down.
Well, it's like in the moment when you went from a car dealership to solar, and I remember you were going everywhere trying to sell solar.
Yeah,
you were like going to parks and little
events.
Yeah, like all kind, like setting up booths and everything.
Yeah, I went and done booths.
And at the time, I remember you being like, dude, I'm not selling a thing. Like, this sucks. I'm doing everything. Now you can look back on that, and how big has Christopher been in your life? And it's like, whether you sold something or not, that was the win in that situation.
As well as Shad Sorensen. He's been a big part of my life also. Without these two men, it was interesting on making that leap of faith and not selling a thing, but then looking back on it and just like, that's why you met, that's why you did that. And it was interesting making that leap of faith. I mean, it was like 5 years of in and out 6 days a week, 10-hour days, in and out, in and out, in and out,
Right.
of what that does to you for 5 years. To really, truly, I was just not happy
Yeah.
with myself there. And I felt like I needed something more. And I looked at Christopher and I saw what he was, and I wanted what he had. And so I just wanted to take that leap and see where I go from there.
Well, let me ask you this, and I don't know the answer, so this might flop on its face, but who did you call when you ran around the block?
Yeah, I called Christopher. Yeah.
Right?
Right.
And so it's like he had to be in your way with the solar stuff to get down the road and have these struggles to call him.
Yeah, he's been a big part of my
Right?
life. Yeah, that's true.
And it goes back to your attitude and your outlook on things. Staying positive in all of these situations. I mean, it's life, man. It's running a business. It's having a relationship. It's being married. It's all of this. How you react to these things that happen will set you down whatever road, whatever you choose, what road lays in front of you, right?
Choose. Yeah, absolutely.
And
how you react. Yep.
As hard as it is to stay positive with everything, I mean, you're a big believer in that. Maybe expound a little bit on a situation that you've had where, I mean, and I'll tell one after you because I've got one in my head, but tell a story of you've been in a situation and you almost had the choice in your mind where you're like, I can either act this way or react this way. Do you have anything? And if not, I'll tell mine what you think.
Yeah, go ahead and tell yours. What do you think?
So I was young, man. I was probably 9 years old. Well, I would have had to have been 12. So I was in Scouts. So there was like a day, they called it a day camp, right? And I think it was at the Sun Bowl. And they just had us go there and go through different like booths. And you learn different things at different booths. And then they would sign off merit badges and stuff at these different booths. So it was like a big get together where you would knock out 5 merit badges. Okay?
Yeah.
And I was not a big Scout guy. I would have rather went and played baseball or football or whatever. And my mom's like, hey, you're going to this. And I'm like, I don't want to go. And she's like, and she lays it out exactly what we're talking. She says, like, you're going, but do me a favor. We both know you don't want to go. I want you to go and have the best attitude you can about it. And if you come back hating it and being in a bad mood, I won't make you go to any more of these. And I'm like, show her, right? I can have an attitude if I want. I'm 12, all right? And so I go to this thing all mad and, this is going to be the dumbest thing I've ever done. Had a blast. Went place to place to place, had a blast. And I went back and I had forgotten about the conversation. And so I get back home and my mom's like, hey, how'd it go? And I'm like, oh, Mom, I met these people and I did this and I got this merit badge. And she just starts smiling at me. And then it started creeping back in my head, this conversation that we had. And she was like, I just want you to remember this. When you have an attitude about something, and I don't know if she explained this to me or this is just my mind. Maybe I was just thinking all this.
Making it up.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like,
Just,
I don't know if it's my mind just like translating the whole thing.
Yeah, and you're doing great.
But it's like, well, exactly what we're saying. Whatever attitude you end up having, you decide that. And later in life, I've been like, if someone makes me mad, that's my decision to be mad. I react how I react. I control my thoughts and my emotions, right? What do you think? You got anything?
Yeah, dude, I got something.
Okay.
So on the way over, I was driving and all of a sudden I hear this pop. And it was on the way over to this podcast.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh no, what was that? And I was like, oh, the car feels okay. And then my tire light came on. I'm like, oh crap. So I pulled over. Sure enough, it's a flat tire. And I'm like, are you kidding me? I'm on the way over and I'm already running a little late. And then a flat tire?
Yeah. And for the record, you're kind of bailing me out because we needed someone late notice and you were there.
Yeah. So I'm a fill-in for a fill-in, right? But anyway, so so flat tire, and I'm like, oh, geez, let's see if I got a spare. Okay. And then a thought came to me right then and there. It was like, maybe you got a flat tire because something down the road, you could have gotten an accident. Would you rather have a flat tire or get in an accident?
Right.
Oh, man, I'm grateful for a flat tire.
I'll take a flat.
And so it's just like that shifted. It was like, interesting. I went there and I thought that. And it's like, all right, I'm going to surrender. And so I started to undo it and started to crank it up. And all of a sudden, my one of my pieces to crank up the, the jack, broke. And so I'm like, dude, now I can't jack up my car to get my tire off to then come to this podcast. And I'm like, man, should I take care of this and reschedule it? No, you made a commitment. You made a commitment and do it. This is the force of average coming at you right now. So let's do it. And so I called you up, and you had Emmett come over, pick me up, and I still have a car on the side of the road right now that needs to be taken care of. But I was committed to show up.
Right.
And so that belief system in here, I'm already having a blast doing this, right? And I fully endorse what you are doing. I mean, this is awesome. Just everyday people that have their deep transformations in their own life, but they're not like celebrity or big status. No, but people can learn and grow from another person's story too. I mean, just like Nicole's episode.
Yeah.
I mean, last episode was amazing. I mean, the places that you guys went, that episode, what this podcast is about. And I think that's really cool that's what you're doing.
Well, and you were the first person, and I think I mentioned this on the first little intro podcast we did. I think we were just in a car talking one day or one night about something, and Tyson just looks at me and he's like, holy shit, dude, we need to get some mics in front of us. And I was like, what do you mean? He's all, and Tyson says, you should do a podcast. And I'm thinking like, well, I listen to Andy, I listen to Jocko, I listen to Joe Rogan,
a lot of podcasts,
you know,
sure.
and I'm like,
do.
Dude, I'm not that guy, bro. I'm
right.
like, you got the wrong
said
guy.
That. You're like, I don't know, man.
Yeah,
I'm
dude.
like, dude, no, bro, you got it, man. The places we go with our talks, and how you make people feel it, and if I feel it, I know other people feel it, and so that's what I saw in you, man. I saw something that like, you're so good at this. You're so gifted and naturally talented that it's like there's something here, man. I see something here in you like that, and that's so cool that you're here. You're doing it.
Yeah,
and that is such a bravo, man. Good job.
When like we were talking with Mallory before we started this, and once I was on Jeff's, and I kind of broke that being scared to do this with Jeff. And I think I called you before or after I was on his and was like, dude, I did it.
Yeah, you did.
We talked about it a year ago and I did it.
Yeah, you did. That's right.
And then I reached out to Mallory, and then this happens.
Okay,
right?
Yeah, shout out. This stuff is freaking awesome. She's doing amazing things here. And I highly endorse and recommend this place and what Mallory's doing.
Yeah,
I mean,
Blueform Media.
Blueform Media is where it's at.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's a lot of people out there that have stories and a lot of just everyday dudes. And I hope that through the first 3 to 4 episodes we've done, I hope we've kind of brought that out. I think everyone had a unique thing. Tyler had a lot of stories that a lot of people have commented on.
Yeah.
Jake's been through a lot of things business-wise, and he's still going through them, right? Like, he's not at the finish line by any means.
Wait, there's a finish line?
Yeah, right? When you die, I guess. And then you got Nicole. Some of the things we talked about with Nicole, or Nicole talked about, and Barb talked about, nobody talks about that.
No, man, they went to vulnerable places.
Yeah.
The stuff that she shared, it struck my heart, man.
Right. I've had a lot of people, and it's only been a few days, I've had a lot of people hit me up about that one, and I hope we just keep that ball rolling, and I don't know why we won't. So I feel good about it.
No, it's true. I think we need to express a lot of our own traumas, and just when we do, I'm not the only one.
Right.
You mean I wasn't the only one that been through this horrible experience? And
you're not the only person that's had his truck repoed.
Yeah, right. yeah, and the disparity you felt too.
Right.
And it's this, yeah, sharing that stuff and being vulnerable and talking about it. And what I've noticed is every time I'm vulnerable and every time I go to places and express my own vulnerability, other people go there and they feel more comfortable going there too, because I went there first, and then it just becomes the epic conversations after conversations of connection. And that's what it's about, man. I do marketing. I enjoy the creativity side, but man, when the connections I have with my clients are like no other.
Sure.
And I really...
and you do. I feel like with a lot of your things, and you kind of had a hint of the safe store because you worked there.
Right, yeah.
But at the same time, I've seen you just deep dive into these things. And it's like, dude, I'm doing these roller cabinets for trucks now, and now I'm doing makeup, and now I'm doing this. And it's like every time we get into something, you're just deep dove. And yeah. I think that's been a big part of why world-class marketing is growing that ladder to being successful. You keep going down that road, and it's just a matter of time until I'm on your boat and you're telling me that you got a suitcase of money downstairs.
Yeah, man. It's only a matter of time.
Let's move forward a little bit more in your story. So you got through, maybe let's talk about your relationships, because I'm just getting a feeling that we both know Marty Party, your dad, good old Marty Party.
Good old Marty Party.
Tell me how, if you will, your relationship has changed with him, maybe even the last 5 years.
Yeah, it's been so different.
Yeah. Tell me that, because
so growing up, my dad was he raced dirt bikes.
Sure.
And you gotta be tough to race dirt bikes, right? And he was one that like doesn't take any crap from anyone kind of guy. As well as, back then, with the racing motor, and you kind of had to be that way back then, racing motorcycles, no question. And so then growing up, he became, but I was his third child, and he became a lot more softer after the first two. And anyways, but there was some stuff there with my dad, for sure. Some triggers, just like any son, for sure. And so growing up, you kind of have that like F you dad kind of stuff sometimes. And I, back then when I was a little bit younger, I felt angry towards him.
Sure.
I guess is the deeper sense, is I felt angry, but I lashed out in different ways. And then just a few years ago, I had so I met Shad, and Shad, he was my mentor. He helped me process. We've done a lot of processing together, and calls and work, inner work is the best way I could explain it. And I invited my dad towards Shad, and like, listen to this guy, dude. He's changed my life. I mean, I can feel, I'm in touch with my feelings now than I never have been before. And who knew feelings could be such a catalyst moment of raising your own being up. And that's something I didn't recognize that feelings could do. Yeah. And feelings are a very epic teacher. I didn't know.
Well, let me jump in. So how did Marty Party feel about that?
So, yeah.
You kind of having another guy that you were looking up to. Was there any? The only reason I ask is because my dad would have been totally against that.
Yeah, no. With Shad, is that what you mean? Or?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. No, he was totally open at that point. And, he started to do a lot of inner work, and we had a group experience of me and my dad. We were vulnerable towards one another. We hold each other and started to cry on one another. And we just said, I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry for all the stuff I felt towards you. And he says, I'm sorry. For as a father, he felt like he failed me. He wanted to protect me. He tried to shelter me and protect him. And I didn't know until that process that we did at that night that he had such a childhood that it was very traumatic. And he wanted me to be protected, to not have the childhood that he had. And that night I saw it that way. Mm-hmm. And that's where my eyes opened, and I started to just see, oh my goodness, he's doing the best he can. and opened up my heart, opened up his heart, and we have this connection. I mean, the way that I look at my dad isn't my dad. I see him as a brother. I see him this connection on a deeper level that I can be myself around.
Yeah, you do
my
now.
My now. Yeah. It was definitely a transition of triggering and trying to process that trigger and saying, hey, man, you're triggering me right now. I just need some space. And he's like, okay, no problem. You know, and that continual process of growing towards one another because you still trigger each other trying to get over stuff.
Yeah.
And
you mean you just didn't get it over?
Yeah, right. Yeah, it just didn't happen all over at one night, even though that we think that it does sometimes. Yeah. But yeah, it was and now it's interesting though, the way that my relationship I've healed a lot of my stuff with my dad and my mom. Mm-hmm. And it's just interesting now how the way I look at life, I'm more financially free because I cleared up some stuff within there. It's affected my life in a lot of deeper ways that I didn't recognize it could with clearing up a lot of my mommy and daddy issues.
Well, I feel like when you've got all of these things just stacked up, and he's probably had those things stacked up for 30 years.
Oh yeah,
right?
It was deep.
And I might be overstepping here, but not only with you, but probably with your sisters as well.
Yeah.
And
my sisters. Yeah.
Yeah. And so then it all comes out. I mean, just think about it as, you know, you only have space for 100 things in your mind, and 40 of those are negative things that you've just built up over 3 decades.
Behaviors upon behaviors, and then they've become a mind of its own after that long.
And then it's like, then it starts affecting you and changing your personality.
Yeah.
I mean, think about all of that just being wiped. And it's like, where can I grow now when, you know, I mean, I'm just throwing random numbers out there, right? But 20, 30, 40% of your daily thoughts are wiped that are negative. And maybe not even fully wiped, but you know that now I get another chance at this. And your kid's older than mine. And so you'll have a lot more experience than I do at that. I mean, my kid he started crawling 2 days ago. Right?
Yeah,
he's kind of starting to do a little army crawl there. Dude. But you've got Raiden.
Right.
And how do you feel like your relationship with your dad, and maybe it hasn't yet as much, but in the future you can project these different things that you're learning with your dad. What do you think that's going to do with him?
Oh, absolutely. It's already changed before. What's interesting is we are programmed and conditioned through our own childhood, right? We look at our parents and then we act like our parents, right? Because we don't know otherwise. Right. Or we act like other people. We see how they act and then we do that. And we just do that subconsciously time and time again. And it's just interesting on, you know, me being parented by my father and then seeing how I do the same thing to my own son. And it's like, I say something. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's exactly what my dad would say to me. What the heck am I doing?
Right.
And now it's becoming, you know, so I used to do that. But now after, you know, going through a closer connection with my father, I've healed a lot of stuff, and it's healed a lot of stuff in my son also. My son didn't have the most best time like talking and reading, and it's interesting. I cleared a lot of connection, you know, deeper stuff, and with my dad, and then how he started to progress quicker also when I started to see my own shit.
So even that memory space that's being taken up with your dad, that gets cleared.
Yeah, that gets cleared.
And it trickles down
to him. And I'm not behaving the way that my dad behaved towards me anymore. Now I shut that off.
Right.
And then I'm like, okay, how do I approach this with love?
Sure.
Like unconditional love. How would I approach it? And it's just so interesting how it's so different every time than what I would do in the beginning and thinking that way and just acting. I just act.
Well, we're actually going to have Raiden on in 30 years, and we're going to see how all that went.
Dude, he'll be the president, dude. That kid, he's unbelievable.
Yeah.
He'll be right next to Will, bro.
Well, so what's with, tell me a little bit about Bonnie. What's going on where's your growing spots with your mom?
So with Bonnie, you know, it was honestly like this transforming time. After I met Christopher and Shad, I did some retreats. And I did a lot of processing, a lot of inner learning of myself. And then I almost became, I learned more about my ego and then how it works within, how I identify with things. You were talking about that earlier, how I identify with things so much that then when they're gone, I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
And so
you like tie yourself to it.
Yeah. And it no longer serves me anymore. And so letting go of that. And so I learned a lot about letting go of a lot of things and things I can't control. And it opened up a lot of different space within understanding me and the way I do things. And love towards myself is the biggest thing, man. That's the hugest thing that's progressed me. Is love towards myself. And it's crazy to say it on a podcast like that, and there's almost a part of me that like don't want to say that because I'm a man, but it's just interesting that no, that's the truth, dude. I'll tell that 100% till the day I die. It's about that.
But at the same time, like, put that as what's the alternative?
Yeah, you're right.
You know, like, yeah, you might be like, oh, I'm kind of a sissy or however you want to put it to say this, but what's the alternative?
You're right.
And you and I don't judge each other, right? So like these things come up.
Right.
And then at the same time, I'm like, well, what are you supposed to do, man?
Yeah.
You're just going to be negative to yourself the rest of your life? So I don't know.
But I do tell you though, like you do catch me in a lot of stuff. Sometimes I like talk to you and say stuff and you're like, dude, you're in your head. And it's just like, oh, thanks.
Well, it's an ego thing because I've been there.
I need that. You know, sometimes you just don't know when you start to identify with it and then go down that rabbit hole. And then you just need somebody to kind of, hey, just so you know, you're going down a rabbit hole. And you approach it with epicness, and you're not mean to me or anything, and it really shifts me.
We've had talks before, and I feel like it's because I've been through it, where I was an overthinker to the fullest, and because of that, I would never act, and it would hold me back, or I would end up maybe not even never acting, but just backing out, because if there was 90% of it being a success and 10% of it failing, I didn't want to take the chance of it being failing. I mean, I've lived my life since I was 16 that I had no plan B. Like I had to bet on myself. I had to work. I had to do all this stuff. I have no plan B. Oh, there's 10% that I can lose. I'm out. I can't take that risk. Where now it's like, I can take that risk a little bit. I can give out that information. Like we were talking before, like I've been prideful. I mean, I still am. I mean, I'm working on it, right? But it's like I've been that extreme prideful before. High school, man. Like me and Alex Stout used to say, like, if you don't like me and Alex, there's something wrong with you, right? Like we were perfect, right? But like that's what gave us confidence to get through high school. Right. But I used to be that prideful person. And so when I see other people going through that, because I've been working on it for 5 or 6 years, I can see it. Dude, you're in your head.
Yeah.
Dude, you're overthinking this.
Right.
Dude, this is a pride thing. Let go of your pride. You may lose. There's probably a better chance that you're going to win, right? And going back to giving information, we were talking about this before. I think a lot of people who know me appreciate that I can be honest with a lot of people.
Yeah.
Like if you feel like you're in the wrong and you know me, you're probably not going to call me if you want to be talked into it, right?
It's true, because you'll approach it at different angles and situations, and some of them you wouldn't want to hear.
Yeah. So like I've had people tell me that, dude, I was going to call you, but I knew you were going to talk me out of it.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm like, well, talking you out of it's not my point. My point is I'm going to be straight to the chase. This is A, B, and C. This is the information. This is what I see. This is how I feel. And I could be wrong, but here's the information. Now you react to it. You do what you need to do. You have this question. Here's this. And a lot of people would be like, well, dude, you're kind of a prick. I mean, for lack of better words, but I'm like, I'm not. I'm just, this is how I see it. And if you can't accept that that's how I see it, I'm sorry. Like, don't come ask me then. If you want it sugar-coated, don't ask me. And I feel like because of that, our relationship has grown a ton.
Right.
And being open and being that way. And I've been like that with a lot of people. And I think that on my side, being vulnerable as well, it's led me into those conversations where 2 hours have gone by and I'm like, oh, dude, I got to go. It's been 2 hours.
Right.
But it's how you connect with people of just being honest.
Yeah, it's true. And honest with yourself.
Yeah.
I think the biggest journey for me too is just to look at myself and being honest with myself. And how oftentimes I catch myself not being honest with myself, and we all do it.
Sure.
And
we're human.
And it's interesting on we view this world of like we're going to be perfect or act perfect of this identity, but perfection is an illusion.
Right.
But yet the society, we always feel like our heads always feel like we need to be perfect. And then we're scared to make the wrong decision. So we don't make a decision, which is making a decision.
Right. And then you're stale.
And then you're stale and stagnant, and then you become depressed, and then all sorts of different rabbit holes can go down there. But it's just the feeling, the intuition, and doing it.
Yeah,
has been the biggest shift of like feeling okay. Oh, got to do it, and I do second question it, and sometimes I don't do it. But when I do those intuition things, it's very interesting on the business decisions and feelings of like no, yeah, and how instant they kind of are for me, and how often time it listening to the gut feeling, I like to call it the heart,
yeah,
has really made some interesting business opportunities for me effortlessly. Of operating. Okay, what would my heart feel? What would I want it? What would that be? What's my deepest desire that I would want through this? Would this serve me at my highest and best good? Yes, I think it would. Or, no way, dude.
Yeah.
It wouldn't. And it's just interesting on going there and making those decisions and how those pan out pretty well.
When I talk to the guys at work, like the employees at the safe store, and I'm always telling them, when people come in to buy safes, there's a lot of different ways you can sell. You know that. I mean, there's a lot of trainings you can do. You can sell off of fear. You can sell off of, I mean, whatever, right? And I'm always telling them, just tell the truth and educate them. And at the end of the day, everything is, if you want to be in a better place, I feel like as hard as it is sometimes, like just tell the truth. And usually at the end of it, it's not as big of a deal as your mind's making it up to be.
No,
right?
you're making it a lot more bigger deal than I think you are.
Yeah.
And it's interesting what truth can do too.
Yeah. And it's funny because like we just had something happen in our, well, I'm making it sound worse than it is. It's not. There was just a conversation in a family thread, right? And someone in there just told the truth. Hey, this is how I feel. And it was unpopular, right? And it's like we expected everyone to jump on it, hey, attack him, whatever. And then at the end of it, it's like, well, it wasn't that big of a deal. Everyone's like, hey, man, like that's how you feel. That's the truth. And so going through those scary moments of, man, I don't want to, I've been programmed to believe this way, or, that person's this, or, and then you go through and just tell the truth on it. It's not that big of a deal, but it's so hard a lot of the time.
It's interesting though, because what I've been learning more on honoring my own truth and what that is. Like, what is my own truth? What is that? And going there. And it's interesting how sometimes it's often I feel resistance towards my own truth. And I think from there, it's because I don't want to offend you, because I want you to like me. And so I get by life because of that. And if you don't like me, oh my gosh, my world is going to go turn upside down and blah, blah, blah. All my head tells me all that kind of stuff. But what's interesting, though, I don't listen to it. I go there, honor my own truth, and speak inarguable truths of how I feel. I feel this when this or that. And you can't dispute of how I feel. No, Tyson, you can't feel that way. Like nobody. So speaking inarguable truths like that, it's such an interesting way of communicating, and it goes to some different routes than otherwise you would, maybe a white lie or say something else that maybe wouldn't be your truth, and it almost leaves like a little dark spot in you for not really honoring your own truth at that moment in time, and that kind of can pile up.
Yeah.
And then I think right now with me, it has piled up, and now I'm like bursting into this self-truth. And despite what society thinks or says, this is me, like this is my own truth. And I think a lot of people want to do that same thing. of express their own truth. And I'll listen to your truth, and you'll listen to my truth, and I'll learn from you, and you'll learn from me, and I won't judge you, and you won't judge me. And that we can go to some amazing places, and it's so much more connecting.
But more people need to be in that headspace to be able to do that.
You're right. And it takes a minute to get there.
Yeah, getting that pride out of the way, getting that ego out of the way is the hardest thing to do. And again, not that I'm a master at it by any means. No. Yeah. But I feel like at the end of the day, man, you just got to do the right thing. And like, it shouldn't be that hard to just do the right thing, whether if it's tell your truth, whether if it's treat someone the right way. I mean, I'll put it to my business. Like, say we have a customer come in and something's happened. I've been asked by my guys, what do we do in this situation? First, I'll usually be like, well, what do you think? Because I want them to start building those problem solving skills, right? But I'll be like, well, what do you think? And then half the time I'll just be like, just do the right thing. Like, is it the right thing to just take care of them? Like, yeah, I mean, as tough as we all think we are, I'm not going to tell them to kick rocks, Right. Like, do the right thing, take care of them. I mean, if we have to eat it and that person's happy going down the road and it's the right thing to do, then do that. But with a lot of people, and ego is definitely part of it. I mean, if you want to get on ego trips, man, the Jocko Willink, I don't know if you listen to Jocko much. Jocko goes through a lot of stuff about ego. And when I've read a couple of his books and listened to his podcast a lot, it's a lot of military-based stuff. He's a SEAL and everything.
Okay.
But he talks about ego in a way I've never heard it talked about before. And, it's like ego's universal sin and all this stuff, right? And it's like, it is, but it's so much deeper than that.
Yeah.
And everything we're talking about right now, if you took ego out of it, people can just sit down and have a conversation like this. And it's sad that it's not that way, but it's not. Guys are taught to be macho and we don't feel pain, and we're the tough guy in the room, and, or we're the smartest guy in the room, or we're the richest guy in the room, or whatever. I'm the best looking guy in the room. All of that's ego. And if we could push that ego out of the way, which is a huge ask, right? I mean, I'm sitting here talking about it like it's so simple.
Yeah.
But it's a huge ask. I would say if we could better the society, it would be, man, just chisel away at that ego.
Learn your ego. Yeah, and there's some epic sources out there for your ego. The best source I would suggest is Aaron Apke. He talks about the ego in a more of a logical way. And my brain is a little bit more logical, and he kind of breaks it down. And then he attaches a little bit more of the spirituality part too, of the ego-based consciousness and the heart-based consciousness, and how to get out of it. When you are acting, he says the ego is claiming identity. And so I am claiming this. I am claiming that. I am claiming I'm a brother. I am claiming I'm a business owner. I am claiming I am a father or whatever. And so then I do the things what I think a father should do. Then I do what I think an entrepreneur should do based upon my own experience. Mm-hmm. But then I get in my head and I think that I'm going to do the wrong thing, and then I will have this confusion going on, this chaos in my head all the time. But then the time it will always go. Your brain it will never shut off. Just like you don't focus on your heartbeat to make sure it beats, your ego does the same thing and goes and goes and goes, just like your heartbeat. It's just part of your body. But what you have control over is the awareness of where you put that awareness is. If it's awareness of, I'm not good enough, and go down that road, then you'll go down that road. Or if you feel like, you know what, I'm going to take a deep breath and just know I'm exactly where I need to be. And I'm going to just go start there.
Yeah.
And just see where that leads. And deep breaths has been one of the biggest things that I've learned too. Is that there's something about it.
Yeah, I've been in a lot of situations growing up with my father, and he was very reactionary to things.
Okay.
X, Y, and Z would happen, and if it was a negative thing, boom, reaction, right? boom, fireworks, boom, whatever the
Just like 0 to 100.
yeah. I mean,
real
if
quick.
it was 0 to 20 or 0 to 50 or 0 to 100, it was just right off the bat.
Boom. Yeah.
And so I think what you're saying with taking a breath, and I've had this talk with many people too. It's like, just relax for a second.
Yeah. Just like stop.
Yeah. Like
That's what it's about. The silence.
this doesn't need to. I mean, there are things that need an immediate reaction,
Yeah,
right? But I'm just talking like in everyday situation things. And I mean, we're going back to being positive in different situations. That'll help too. But just the majority of the people I know that have, let's say they have tempers, let's say they have uncontrolled negative thoughts, whatever, they're all reactionary. And it's like, take a second, think about it, process this. And I from looking at a lot of or listening to a lot of podcasts and going through different things, I've noticed that a lot of high level people, when you talk to them, they almost like have a pause.
Yeah, before they talk, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, they think about it. They go,
And as stupid as that sounds,
no, dude, you do it. Seriously, guys, do it. Because it changes your world. Because what you would say and react to instantly, it could change the trajectory of your life.
yeah,
Of acting on this. And then that person
Or
will act
someone
upon that.
else's.
And then it will act, and have a huge ripple effect. Then rewind to that point of taking a deep breath. Ooh, nope, I shouldn't go there. Okay, this is a little bit better. Let's say it like this. And it can go completely different route.
right.
You can make a sell or not that way too.
Yeah. I mean, you can blow up, and 99.9% of the time it's a negative experience, or, okay, that's not what I expected. And I do this a lot because I think maybe I'm the weird one. I don't know. I mean, my wife tells me I'm weird because I do this, but like I pre-think the majority of the conversations I'm ever going to have.
Yeah.
Like I'm sitting in the shower just thinking about, oh yeah, well, I got to call that guy today. And if he says this, I'm going to say that. If he says that, I'm going to say this. And then when I go make that phone call, if I haven't thought about every variable, then that's when I would have blown up, and the reaction is because, well, dude, connect these dots, right? It's like a pride thing. I hadn't prepared myself for that. You have that conversation, doesn't go the way you want to go, you blow up. Now it's like, okay, well, how do we fix this? Or how do I put this to my benefit? Or how do I put this to my employees' benefit, or the company's benefit, or whatever I'm trying to get out of that situation. And, the guy that really taught me this, and I mean, was a huge thing in my life, was Ron Stout.
Yeah.
I mean, he definitely had times he blew up. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, good old Ronnie boy blowing
But
up.
I mean, and it was like, it was so mind boggling to me that, all the reactions that I saw as a child and growing up through childhood, then I'm exposed to Ron. And the majority of the time when he was just having conversations, he always had like this grin. So like you would say something to him and he kind of like have this slow creeping grin. And I think that was him like buying time to like react to what's happening. And so, or whatever it was, he'd always have like a little pause, unless you're just like going back and forth. But if something like a decision needs to be made,
Right.
I don't know, like seeing him go through all of that, it might sound crazy to someone else that had like my father-in-law is an extremely calm person. Right.
Right.
And so, I mean, I can just imagine like one of his kids getting in trouble and him being like, okay, well, I'm disappointed. Why don't you go to your room and then we'll talk about this? And like, I just can't imagine that. Right. Like,
right. Your dad didn't do that.
No. and
What would your dad do?
Usually I'd be scared to even tell my dad. I feel like my dad was always, he'd point out the obvious, and then there would be some kind of not like harm threat, like he's not going to hit me, but there would be like this. Like I got my first sports car. It was a convertible Mitsubishi Eclipse.
That's right.
And first night I had it, I'm out racing one of my buddies. up where Costco is. And I'm not even sure what was there then, but I'm coming up that road. We're doing like, I don't know, 60 miles an hour. It's like midnight. Like no one else is on the road. Get pulled over, right? And cop comes up. He's like, license, registration, whatever. So I give him my license. I just got the car and I bought it from my brother. And so I handed him my brother's information. And he's like, you must be the youngest of the Lake boys. And I'm like, I don't know if this is good or bad, right? Like, and I'm like, yes, sir. And I'm shaking, right? I'm 16. And he's like, well, let's call your dad. Let's get your dad down here. The car's not registered. There's no insurance. And I'm like, well, yeah, this is my first day, right?
Yeah.
This first day I've ever had it. And so he says, well, if we get your dad down here, I'm going to write you for a 5-over ticket. If you don't, we're going to impound your car. And so, right. And now I can sit back and laugh at it. I'm like, just take me to jail. Or slap the cuffs on. I'm not calling him. Come. And so he sits me over on the curb. And I mean, it was definitely a scared straight moment for me.
Yeah,
right.
Right.
And so I give him my dad's number. Dad comes down and he's like, to the cop, he's like, hey man, thanks for calling me. Well, yada, yada. I guess they went to high school together or something.
Okay.
And he knew all my brothers. And he's like, being super nice to him, comes over to me sitting on the curb, just like waiting to get a verbal lashing, And he's like, good job. You just sold that car. We're putting a for sale sign on it. He's like, get your ass in the car and we're going home. And I'm like, in my head, that's like the worst thing that, I'm like,
yeah, that's
okay,
intense.
What's going to happen
you
when
just
we
bought
get home?
this car
that
day and want to have fun and all of a sudden get taken away. Yeah.
And so we're driving home and he's like, we drove separate cars. So I drove his car. He drove mine.
Okay.
So we drove home. He gets in front of me and I remember him coming to my door and he throws my car door open. We're in the driveway.
Okay.
And I'm just like, all right, here we go. And I look up at him and I'm like, I'm sorry. And I start talking. He cuts me off. I don't remember exactly what he said. Disappointment, this, that. I can't believe you're so stupid, yada, yada. And so I just go in the house and I'm like, all right, dude. He follows me down to my room. And I remember him, he said like over and over, I thought I could trust you, but now we're selling your car. You obviously can't be trusted. We're selling your car. You just put a for sale sign on your car. And he's like, he's yelling at me, right? Like he's not talking like we are. He's full-fledged pointing fingers, yelling at me. And I sat on my bed and he left. And my dad's MO was get mad, slam the door, and peel out of the driveway. And then he's gone, right? But to me, that was normal. I mean, I'll touch on that. Like, that was normal to me. I thought everybody's dad acted like that.
Yeah.
Right? And then the next step would be mom would come down. Hey, honey, how's it going? I'm sorry.
Try and
yada,
comfort you.
yada. Yeah. And I'm like, he has no right to tell me I'm selling my car. I paid for it. It's my car. And my mom's like, we're not selling your car. And I'm like, but dad said, right? And she's like, it's going to be fine. Yada. And this is, looking back, this was every situation when my dad would get mad and leave. Mom would come down and smooth it over.
Yeah, that's interesting.
And
which played a huge role in your relationship towards your dad and towards your mom.
Sure. I mean, that's kind of panned it out to how it's been. Well, my dad's he passed away 2 years ago.
Okay.
And so
That's right.
I hadn't talked to him for 7 years before he died.
That, yeah.
And so even up to 7 years ago, I mean, that cemented it for me.
Right.
And my mom, basically at the moment, works at my safe store doing her own selling stuff. And so I'm with her every day. I mean, I love my mom.
Yeah.
There's nothing in this world. My mom's a saint, especially everything that I feel like she went through. And I hope I'm not getting too personal for her, and she might get mad at me about bringing up all of this. But I guess that's the Derick Lake podcast. That's the point.
That's where we're going, dude. We're going to open up old stuff.
Yeah, but that was normal to me.
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, there was Shane Morris and there was Ron Stout, and they were the two biggest influences outside of my family, right?
Yeah.
Grandpa, dad, brothers. And I stayed the night a few times at Shane Morris's house. Jimmy Morris, his son. We were really good friends when we were younger. And I remember there was like 4 straight nights that nobody blew up. Like there was no like yelling.
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, dude, like not that there was yelling every night at my house, but I just remember thinking like, dude, it's been like 4 days. And like, and we screwed up, like we tracked mud in. He had a little 3-wheeler on like a half-acre lot, and we'd go drive his 3-wheeler around in the backyard. And like we would do stupid stuff all the time. There was never any blow-ups, right? And then, later in my later teens being around Ron, and like, sure, he'd had a couple blow-ups. I mean, I'm sure we'll have Alex on here one day and he'll correct me on all this, but I just remember thinking like this, like how I grew up. At the same time, I will say this, my dad struggled with a lot of stuff, right?
Yeah.
And
if we could open up his head and see what chaos was in there, we would
this is not a shit on my dad episode.
Yeah, no. I mean, it's.
I mean, I think I honestly believe, because I'm not mad at him, right? Everything that happened, I'm not mad at him. I mean, even covering the mortgage and the power bills and all that for years, like that was still my choice. It's like I'm not mad at him about that. I didn't respect him when I told him like, hey man, I just don't want to talk to you anymore. Like your drama.
Right.
I can't have drama
which is hard
life.
to do with your dad.
Sure.
You had to cut off your dad, and that was a big deal for you, dude. But it was something that you needed to do. And I'm sure there's a lot of other guys out there that had to do that.
Yeah.
And you had to do that for your own sanity because of what chaos got created every time.
Well, wasn't it you when we were at the Staley Farms that one time? Was that me and you? We were helping out Staley Farms and he blew up. Yeah, so
that's right.
He was in charge of, or kind of in charge of the haunted corn maze stuff.
The haunted corn maze stuff, that's right.
And I don't even remember what happened now, but we were helping him build some scene or something, and man, he just lost it.
Yeah, he did.
And I think he was chucking stuff and throwing things, and then he went up to Sherry Reeder that runs it. I'm sorry for dropping her name if she's mad at me, but he went up to her, and I'm sure there was some choice words said, and I think he grabbed both of us and we jumped in the car. I'm shaking. I'm embarrassed. I mean, that's the best word for it. I was embarrassed because you were there.
Because I was there and your dad and I was, and he, it was intense. I remember that.
And then we jumped in the car and drove home.
That's right.
And I'm just like, what the hell?
It was a quiet road ride home.
I mean, I'm not sure I've ever been, because like I knew all this stuff was going, especially then. I mean, we were in high school.
Yeah, we were older for sure.
And so like I knew all this stuff was going on with my dad, but to have that happen in front of my like really good friends, I don't think I've ever been more embarrassed in my life.
That was a big thing for you.
Yeah. Why? Because I was prideful?
No, man. I mean, it was like, it was something that you've been dealing with all your life.
Well, and I think that me dealing, it like goes back to my mom and sister, like, I could deal with it, right? I mean, I was strong enough to deal with it.
Yeah.
Get on my shoulders. Let's roll, right? But, like, when that would get out and, like, you saw that, or I'm sure Alex saw a few things, ex-girlfriends, all of that, that's what embarrassed me. Not that he acted that way, but that people saw it. And I don't know if I don't know if I was... I mean, I'm kind of processing all this right now.
Do you think it was because, like, you cared what they thought?
See, but I don't know if it's that
of what they thought of your dad or thought of you. Oh, this is your dad?
Well, and I think it was how they thought of him. Like, I was almost embarrassed for him.
Oh, yeah, I could see that. Yeah, I could see that, yeah.
But then again, man, like, I look back and I'm like, I think he was doing everything he was trying to do.
He was doing the best he could with what he had. Yeah. I mean, he was, he had some stuff too. I mean, he had some demons in his childhood with some of the stuff he grew up. Yeah, man.
Yeah.
It's not just all of a sudden he's like that. It
Right.
develops over time, and then these demons become of their mind of their own, and then they can just feast upon you and feast upon you. And if you're willing to let it in and let it have power over you, then it can go down to deep roads.
Sure.
But there's a time of like, okay, do I surrender, let go? And there's a higher power, so to speak, that can come through you, and you are your answer. You are your answer. And it's amazing to find that out, but it's tough. It's tough pill to swallow sometimes.
Well, I think just coming out of your shell, and I feel bad for kids now, dude, that, I mean, I guess we're going to date us, right? But like, we would always say, you know, the models in magazines or whatever you want to put to it. And now it's all the social media and everything, and all the pressure it puts on kids
now.
And to be perfect.
And all of us.
Yeah.
Because here I am. I took a picture next to this Corvette, or I took a picture next to this Lamborghini, and then I want you to think that's my Lamborghini because I want to make sure I feel good. And I'm going to see how many likes I get. And, ooh, look how many likes I get. I must be loved.
But think of how jacked up that's going to mess with kids, though.
Because then what will happen is then the self-recognition gets confused as love.
Sure.
And then you're in need of it. And so this is this constant seeking of this recognition, which then this pleasure will eventually turn into pain. And then you don't get it. And then you try to numb it with drugs or alcohol or whatever which way. And it's just.
Well, add another layer on it. It's not even like likes and heart emojis or whatever and comments. Now I'm going to pay you for those comments. Now you're going to financially gain for the popularity that you're gaining on here, that people think that you're cool, whether they're robots or not.
And that, when you put money in it, yeah, that's right, man. That's true.
But I struggle with this a lot. I don't let Will have my phone. I won't give him my phone. Every now and then we'll watch TV a little bit. Like if there's like the NBA finals are on. So like we'll watch the NBA finals a little bit. Suns won. And game one. They took game one. They'll
like
probably win it.
How many
pretty
points did
good.
they lead?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, it doesn't
I mean, it wasn't a game at the end. But like, I almost feel like, am I handicapping him from taking technology from him? I mean, let's be honest. He's 8 months old, right? It's not like I'm wrecking his life right now.
But at 8 months, though, they're the most sensitive to energy at that age. I mean, think about it. Where did he come from?
Yeah.
He came and incarnated into this realm of, that's what we know right now, right? And then, but you don't remember when you're a kid, and there's a reason why. And so it's just interesting with the infinite how much open and receptive they are towards the parents' energy. And what the parents' energy do is paramount on what's going to move forward within how they react to energy from there on out.
Well, I see the way everything's going with, social media, podcasting, being on camera, all these things. And it's a normal thing for kids.
They want to be YouTube stars.
One of the hardest things that I could have ever done.
No, it's a big breakthrough for sure.
But they're used to it. I mean, they're on cameras all the time.
Yeah, they're big. Mom's always a camera. Yeah. And then once again, ooh, look at me. I'm self-recognition. I have a camera pointed on me.
And so like...
Yeah, it can do some deeper stuff there with society, right?
Like take a kid that has an iPad from the second he can function it, right? Take him till he's, 2 years old. You have an older kid than me, you'd know. But take him till he's X amount of years old. And then take a kid that doesn't get mom and dad's phone, doesn't have an iPad at 2 years old, doesn't have this. Are you hindering that kid at that point? Because everything is technology right now. And it's just going to get more, right? I mean, dude, I can hardly function a laptop. And so, like, am I hurting him from that? Because I think that would be, from our generation and older, that would be the common idea is, yeah, dude, they shouldn't have your phone. Yeah, when you're sitting at a restaurant, they should have a toy, not an iPad. They shouldn't have all these things. But for that next generation, even really, we're kind of the older end of our generation, if you want to call it that. are we hurting these kids, babies, toddlers, whatever age, by taking that away from them? It's hard, man. You almost want to like split test this. Like, I'm interested in it. Like, do you take a kid and have him have a phone all the time before he even knows what it is? And at 2 years old, he can do everything on it? Or do you have a kid that maybe he's 5 and he gets his hands on a phone for the first time? Or he's 17. I mean, I don't know. I was 17 when I got my first phone, but they can't do everything that they can do now.
Yeah.
So I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, dude, I think it's interesting because, yeah, two different. So we got a kid that's always on the phone playing games. And with games, we know that it is a hand-eye coordination, which is another process deeper inside, right? And then continue playing games and then YouTube games or whatever. It can cognitively may increase some things. But then the addiction becomes there, and then you take a phone away, and then what reaction do they take from there? Like, oh, I don't know.
Right, tantrum.
And so once again, it's there's this happy medium for sure of education, because with the phone there's so much education too for kids.
It's also easier,
and it's easier.
But
the catch-22 is it's an easy babysitter. Here, have my babysitter. And it's true. I mean, as parents now, we always do it for sure. Yeah, there's a little bit of like, oh man, you probably spent a little bit too much time on that thing.
And grandma and grandpa
he's being quiet right now, so it's kind of worth it.
Yeah. I mean, if every parent that I know hasn't felt that, I mean, my kid, I don't feel like Will's old enough yet.
Yeah, right.
Like every parent that has a kid that age hasn't felt that. I mean, I bet it's 100%.
You're right. Yeah. Where's that happy medium though? Where's that? Okay. Set some times and whatnot. And now school, with my I have a 6-year-old kid and yeah, obviously with COVID, and that was a big deal with, we went to school down here within COVID, but it was a lot of, they required him to do, an online thing and to learn, numbers and letters and so on and so forth. And he loved it. He loved playing the video games and learning. And it was like he was playing a video game and having fun and all these different words and letters. And it was like, this is cool. Technology is a cool thing like this.
Yeah.
Seeing my child learning and playing at the same time, things, you wouldn't think could be possible. But it's technology is awesome for sure.
Well, answer this. So if Raiden's on YouTube or something, what's he watching?
He loves Roblox.
So is that a game?
So yeah, it's a game. So Roblox is like you can have, honestly, anybody can create a game on Roblox.
Okay.
And there's some games that are better made than others. And so then there's lots of YouTube people play Roblox, and they make a lot of money just playing Roblox.
Because he watches them.
And so he watches them play, Roblox. And
so then let me ask you this. So, because my mind being, I mean, dude, you can basically put anything in front of me and I'll tell you how to make money on it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just how
I
my
know,
mind
dude.
works.
I watch these and I do research on these.
But it gets like annoying to me. I'm like,
money.
Dude, you should be doing this. You can sell that for $17 and the cost is only $4. And if you did this, then your overhead is right. But so I look at this and I'm like, okay, let's say Will is starting to get, I don't know what age they start watching YouTube. I don't know, 3. Let's say he's 3. And he finds this kid that plays Roblox and he watches him. Okay. My mind would be like, dude, turn that off. Let's go get a camera. I'm gonna video you playing Roblox and let's put you on there. Or
to make money. Right.
Well, not even that, but like, I want to teach him to be a producer, not a consumer.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like, I'll plug this like, hey man, let's go down to Blueform Media. We got this whole thing set up. You can just sit there and play your game like you're going to do at home anyway. And, and she's just going to throw a video camera over your shoulder and you guys are going to go nuts, But I think it's the mindset of what I'm getting at. It's not even the money side of it.
Right.
But having your kid, and I'm not saying one way is better than another. I'm just throwing this out there. It's just an idea. But in my mind would work like, okay, dude, if you're going to play Roblox, whether I'm fine with it or not, why not, instead of watching someone else play it, or like my nephew watches people play Madden or FIFA,
right?
Right. And it's like, are you better off being in front of that camera and just having the mindset of, I'm not consuming all of this, I'm producing all of this. I'm not consuming the Joe Rogan podcast, I'm producing the Derick Lake podcast. Like, are you better off doing that or not?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there needs to be some time that you're entertained for sure. I mean, that's me watching the finals, right? So I can't like crap on not being entertained sometimes. But I don't know. It's just a thought I've always had.
It's interesting because I thought the same thing, and I know my business partner Mitch has done done it. Of he sees his kid watching YouTube, and kids play. I mean, there's a Gravy Cat is his name out of all names, and he's like this 10-year-old, 12-year-old, and he gets millions of views. He has millions of subscribers, dude. I looked it up, and he gets paid. What was it? It was like $15,000 a day.
That's insane.
He was, a great, like, it was just insane. And so, I looked that up. I'm like,
that?
Raiden, let's do this, bro.
What's that, NBA player money?
And so, let's see you do that. And he hoots and hollers. And, but it's interesting. I thought the same thing of.
Well, I feel like that's both ends of it. I'm like, no, you're not allowed to have my phone. And from that, I would go to, hey, quit watching YouTube. Let's put you on YouTube.
Yeah.
Right. And so, like, I don't know where I'm going to end up, but that's my two thoughts about it.
Yeah, that's true. It's funny.
What do you let's talk a little bit about marketing real quick.
Yeah.
So Tyson does do all of our websites, builds all of our websites. I mean, gosh, do you do everything?
So websites, I got your whole Weapon X, safes. I do your Facebook marketing, edit your videos. I mean, you let me be a lot of you're my guinea pig really a lot of different times. And you're like, yeah, dude, let's do it.
Let's do it.
And I've practiced and refined my skill, once again, practicing on you. And you get results, and it's awesome to be a part of something like that. That's what really lights me up too, is just to see the results of it. And it's just like, wow, man, I was a part of this. This is so much bigger than me right now, and I'm a part of it.
Well, and I think that Mallory fills that with the Derick Lake podcast. And
I'm sure she does.
But I'm the other side of that. I'm like, I get to be the first one that Blue Form Media does. And so, like you're saying, it's just funny that however you're going to associate with it. I didn't mean to cut you off.
It's true, marketing's been a interesting process. There's lots of stuff, and especially trying to make other people money is not the easiest thing in the world. But marketing is one of the is the fastest way to grow your company. No question. To spend time on marketing was one of the fastest ways, for sure. I think we've experienced that. I feel.
Opening the safe store, I had to open my mind to that a lot, because when we had the first location, when you were there, I mean, granted, I was playing with my own money, and I didn't have as much of it then as
you took some risks, dude.
I took a huge risk.
Some risks,
and it's like, it was hard to say, hey, let's run this Facebook campaign for $2,000. Let's run that radio ad for $2,000. And now I'm like, Tyson, what do you think? Well, I think we do this and this. What do you think on a budget? Plug in a budget, dude. Like, and not only am I growing, I'm benefiting off of my businesses because of that, but then you're growing and learning those price points and those things with Google and Facebook and YouTube and all of that. But honestly, dude, in my life right now, it's so funny because you listen to all these people, and I'm not big time at all. I'm just a dude trying to figure it out, right? But like, time is important to me. And if I don't have to spend that time talking to you about budgets, or my mom about how much to sell something for, or Emmett about how to set up a safe delivery, those just these little things, even if it's 5 to an hour, 5 minutes to an hour, I'm like, just take care of it. But I've been that way for a while. I've just not had the financial freedom. Not that I'm financially free, but I have more freedom than I did 5 years ago, is what I'm getting at. To be like, you just need to take care of it. I trust Tyson, take care of it. But I feel like with you, that's been a big step in your business too, to have that option to jump in. Okay, we're going to do this for a month. We're going to do it X amount of dollars a day. right? And kind of have that freedom, but also the freedom, which I hope you feel is there's very, very low consequences with it, because I want you to have that freedom to take it to the next level, not be worried about failing. Right. And I think that that I have that confidence in you to do that, or I would never just turn it over to you and tell you to run.
Right. I mean, when I first was starting to build websites, you were the one that I was, testing stuff out on and build your websites and different, aspects of SEO and learning how to do SEO. So I have been self-taught.
Sure.
And it's through experience that I'm doing it. Ooh, I learned from there. Okay, let's not do that. Okay, let's keep on doing. And so I've been consistent for 5 years. Well, it's been longer, but it's
I would say if there's anyone out there looking for SEO, in my experience of having let's call it just say a retail business for 7 years, I don't think there's anyone out there that can get the results you can. Tell me what you do the best and why you're the best at SEO. Because I think that, anybody could build a decent website. There's platforms out there now that you just basically plug a lot of things in, and maybe you disagree, but I think where the SEO comes into it is you can't get that when you just build a website off of GoDaddy or whatever.
No, it's important for a website, right? So you're a business owner. You're like, man, I need a website. I should get a website. And most times it's the business's brochure.
Yeah, or it's a landing page with my contact information.
And it's just not a whole lot of speaking what they're about, or speaking to the ideal target audience on their copy or the pages. The feelings that it talks. The feelings that you get looking at the page. There's all these things that come into it, and within the website, the psychology of it, and then within the SEO part. So you gotta, if you have a website that doesn't rank, it's not doing you any good.
Yeah, maybe explain what SEO is.
Okay,
real quick.
SEO is search engine optimization. So basically, you have a website and you want people to obviously people search on Google if they're, looking for a product or service. And so they search Google and, where's a gun safe store, enter in St. George. And then what pops up first, you're usually 90% of people will click on the first page. And then there's the Google My Businesses and then the blue links right under. And so, you want to capture, there's 90% chance that somebody could click on your link on the first page. But once they go to the second, third, look at your own behavior. How many times you've been to second or third, trying to search for someone. It's usually on the first page. And you want to get that traffic. And so SEO is to help rank your website to be on that first page to get that organic traffic. And the more traffic you get on your website, the more leads you get.
So with all the SEO stuff, because I never even heard of SEOs until you brought it to my attention. I had Weapon X Holster's website that I had built late night one night on my laptop, and it looked like dog shit, if we're just being honest. Right. I felt like, this kind of gets the point across.
Right, it did, and you had your products on it.
Yeah, and to be honest, at the time, I was doing 99% local sales.
Yeah.
I just wanted a website, so people were like, oh, he's real. He has a website, he's real. Like, if I didn't sell one product off of it, I didn't care. I just wanted somewhere for someone to land and be like,
legit. Okay.
He's got or even on a business card,
right,
that it says weaponxholsters.com on a business card. But then Tyson steps into my life and enlightens me. So, so go a little deeper now. Now that we know what SEO is, go a little deeper on what you could do for someone else. Say you've got that guy, maybe he has a landing page. Maybe you're going to redo it, start from, gosh, dude, we could go anywhere.
Yeah, I know. So what the process would be, really capture what their vision is. Why are you doing that? Because people will get behind a why, and that's what makes me different. Is I continue to try to understand my own why of why I'm doing this, and then understanding my own why, I can help other people understand theirs. And so trying to grasp what your why is and trying to put that on a digital website, page, and attract those like-minded people that you want to work with. And it depends on the pictures, the content, what you say, all that stuff. I can help you capture that vision and express to, I mean, how many times have we talked different angles and like, okay, let's see, do this, or what do you think about this idea? And then we run with it, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't.
Well, let me say this too, because I feel like when you get into that stuff, it's like, do what you want to do what's important to you, do your vision, and this is said all the time, but it couldn't be more true. 50% of people are going to get it and they're going to jump in and they're going to buy something, and 50% of people aren't.
Right.
Damn those other 50% of people, because they're not going to ever be your customer.
You don't
anyway.
want them anyways.
Yeah, you don't want to.
You don't want to deal with them.
I mean, we've turned down safe sales because, like, I'll talk to the guy on the phone and he's a jerk, and I'm like, and they're telling me, dude, over at Cow Ranch, I can do this, and I'm like, cool, man, good luck with Cow Ranch. Like, you're not our target market anyway.
Yeah, right.
But and that's what you do so well, is you dive in, and it's not, hey man, world-class marketing has this vision, step out of our way and we'll take care of it.
Right.
Which I've been down that road before. It's, hey, what do you like? What's your vision? What's the purpose? How'd you get into this? Tell me the story. And you dive deep into all those things to build those pages up to how the creator visions it. I guess.
And that's important though. Just, like you're saying, like, and it stirs up people too. Like when I talk about marketing with their business, it's interesting how it kind of sparks them and they get back excited again.
Yeah.
And it's just interesting how it kind of like, they were in this slump and then you start talking about marketing and then they're like, oh yeah, let's do this. And then so it's interesting what it does to business owners too. And the vision, expression, ooh, let's do this. Ooh, let's do that. And it works, and that synergy, and then they're becoming more focused on it, and you get more if you focus on what you get.
What would you say to a business owner? Because I've been this guy too, and I've been this guy with you. What would you say to someone that's maybe small and trying to grow? They're trying to take their next step. They're trying to scale. And that's when you don't have any money.
Yeah. No,
so what would you, yeah. What's that conversation like when you have that with that business owner and they're telling you, dude, funds are kind of low.
Right. Yeah. The biggest thing is like, where is your target audience? And one thing that I think a lot of business owners don't understand is what their target audience is. And I get people, it's everyone. Well, you can't market to everyone. And that tells me you don't have a target audience.
Yeah.
But really, what's my ideal client going through?
Well,
like,
that's the difference.
What's
the ideal client?
What's the ideal client? What keeps them up at night? What are they thinking about when they go to bed? What do they read? What websites do they go to? What blogs? What magazines? So on and so forth. If you really dive into the avatar of your ideal client, you can market your message around it. So then you have in mind when you're writing the copy of this ideal client, and then they read it and like, yeah, your conversion ratio goes through the roof with that kind of stuff. And so guiding them, understanding on the process of the buyer's journey, and
through the website,
through the website or through whatever there is, and their nurturing. Is it going to be email marketing? What are you going? Is it going to be newsletter? How are you going to continue to capture leads and money? And marketing is the fastest way to do it.
Sure.
But one thing I did want to say though, that if you don't have any money and you want to do, try to grow on your digital online presence, your Google My Business is probably the best bet. And if you don't have a Google My Business, get one. What a Google My Business is, if you search for coffee shops in St. George, and then it brings up those three little, have your maps, and then you have 1, 2, 3 little listings
on the map.
And then you click one, and then you'll still be on Google, and it drops, and it will show their name, their number, their address, reviews, when they're open, all that kind of stuff. A website already does.
Yeah.
So Google designed that so you don't get off of Google, you stay on Google. So it offers everything what a website offers. Although with website and Google My Business, they do concur, and you can up level your Google My Business listing with a website. So I'm not saying don't do a website, but
complements each
but
other.
yeah, if you're short on cash, do a little bit of research on how you can boost your Google My Business, or hire me to do it for you. And I know some secret sauces to start to get it up in the top 3 fairly quickly. And that's probably just as important as your website.
I think that the thing that took you to the next level, and I watched it because we were playing with all of my 2 websites, right?
Right.
When you got a few different tools, I'll call it, to where you could, and I'm probably not using the right verbiage, but go into the back end of these websites and you can read what their traffic's like, what their click-through rates like, what their conversion rates like, and all of that.
Right.
Maybe spend we got to wrap it up here in a minute, but maybe spend a minute just on what those tools allow you to do and why it's important to that person that maybe has a website and they're trying to grow it, or what am I trying to say? Like, you can basically look at your competition and figure out what they're doing right and duplicate it and triple it.
Yeah. You don't have to recreate the wheel. When somebody comes to me, I say, hey, what's your 5 competitors? Give me your 5 competitors. And then what I do is I pull reports on all those 5 competitors and see what they're doing with SEO. They got this, and this going on. They're ranking well here. I bet we could probably do better than them here. But man, this is actually a good idea what they're doing. So I'm not reinventing the wheel. I'm doing what the competitors doing and more, because that's all I have to do is just appear in front of them.
Yeah.
Or whatever it may be. And then the data tracking is super important because, for instance, if you have a lot of traffic to your website, but you're not getting any leads, what's going on there? Is it the copy? Is it the pictures? Is it something wrong with the website? All these different factors. Okay, so we'll adjust that. So all this data is super important to read. Is if I'm getting a high bounce rate, people clicking on and then they're reading and then they're clicking back off really quick. What does that mean? And what's the buyer's journey? What kind of journey are you taking on? And always capture, their email, because then you can utilize that. So you pay Facebook, they click on the ad, and then I'm sure you experience it. Hey, get a free PDF. And then they put their email, send. Now you have their email. You can market to them. You paid Facebook for this leak, and now you can continue to market to these people and nurture, because they're interested enough to give you their email.
Yeah.
And so that's
in the market.
And yes, it's so many different avenues, and each one's so different, but I'll take good care of you.
Yeah, personally, I thought it was cool that you could go in and see all, like when you showed that to me, I was like, well, heck, man,
the Google Analytics and how many people, what the bounce rate is, this page got, the most likes, this is the average time on this spent.
We'd even been through like, hey, they came from Google, so we know we're getting them from Google. Here they are at Google. Yeah. And then,
Facebook.
They jump into this Glock 19 and then they bounce.
Right. Yep.
And it's like, okay, so why?
Why? Yep.
Right. And then you can go in and adjust
and
those.
What's going on with the Glock 19? Okay, can we adjust some words? Okay, let's do that. And that's all it is. It's always adjusting. And that's what marketing is.
And I would say that people need to understand that this isn't, here's my $500. You fixed everything and now I'm a millionaire.
Right.
Like, this is a journey through the whole thing. Yeah. Right.
Okay, man.
I think that's it, dude. Okay, dude. Thanks for coming, good. Man.
Thanks, man.
I think that's a good spot to wrap it up. I think we could talk about marketing all day.
Yeah, we can.
I didn't want to get too much into the marketing because we both have a lot of stuff in our lives that we wanted to talk about.
Yeah.
So
no, that's what this podcast is about for sure. And I just want to say, man, I appreciate you doing this, man. I mean,
thank you.
I know your story and what you've been and come through, and it's just awesome to see you doing the things that you do and continue to inspire me as well as everybody around you, despite what you think, and the continued service of others that you always do, and everybody around you sees that. And I just, not too many oftentimes that you can just praise a guy that you see like this and the gifts that he has, and from one brother to another, man, I really appreciate who you are, and I see you of who you are, and I'm grateful that I do.
Thanks, man.
You're welcome.
Love you, bro.
Love you, man.
All right, dude, we're going to wrap it up. If you haven't yet, please like the video. Like us on however you're watching this, YouTube, subscribe on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, however you're listening to this.
And share it. Share it if you can. Please share it.
One thing that Blueform does for us that I think is extremely cool, and I don't see anyone else doing this at the level that Blueform does, is they do the clips of the day Mallory will get on and she'll post different clips through these. I mean, we've had a lot of cool ones with Tyler Campbell, had some cool clips through there. I'm sure Nicole's going to have a flood coming here pretty soon since we have a little bit of time now to cut that up. If you see one of those clips, share it on your story, share it on something, try and get the word out. We're trying to spread normal people's stories and let everyone know they're not alone. And, we all go through stuff. And like we've talked about here today, how your attitude is and how you come out of it is what's going to set you on a straighter path. So thanks for coming, man. I appreciate it.
Thanks, man.
We'll see you guys later.
Thank you.